When I was just a baby priest, I don't know if you're imagining like an infant with a collar on or something. When I was a baby priest, when I was just in my first, second, maybe third year of priesthood, I felt this kind of pressure that I needed to have an answer to every question that people asked me. You know, I was young, I wanted to help, I was kind of freshly ordained, I had this energy this kind of like love to like really want to help people, and it seemed to me at the time that helping people included, giving them knowledge and answering their questions. And so I just sort of had this feeling that whatever question somebody asked, I had to have an answer for. Well, there's an infinite number of questions, and I obviously don't have infinite knowledge, but what I found myself kind of pressured into was, when I was asked a question that I just didn't know the answer to, I would sort of like take my best guess. And I guess that's okay sometimes, but the problem is, people hear the words of a priest and they don't understand that sometimes it's not actual knowledge, and it's not necessarily like the church has some official teaching on something. It's just, maybe it's a guess, and maybe I'm not saying it in a way that people understand, that I'm just kind of giving you my best guess. But in general, that it betrays a kind of immaturity on my part, or betrayed a kind of immaturity on my part, and almost a kind of arrogance. I don't have the answer to everything. I got to tell you guys right now, nobody has the answer to every question. No priest, the Pope doesn't have the answer to everything. The church, even as an official body, doesn't have answers to every single possible question. That's not what's there. That's not the point of anything. Because there are some things that simply aren't within the domain of human knowledge. Let me kind of rephrase that. Not everything is your business. And we see today that Jesus runs into somebody who asks a question that isn't his business. It really isn't any human being's business. And we see what's indicated because Jesus doesn't answer the question. We see that that's what's being indicated. Lord, will those who are saved be few? He's asking a question. So this man that approaches Jesus as he's going to Jerusalem. Lord, will those who are saved be few? How many people are going to go and get to heaven? Other people. How many of those other people? Maybe he's looking for a percent or something. Maybe he's looking for a number. Are they going to be few or many? You can just pause before you even look at Jesus' answer. Just kind of ask yourself, why is that anybody's business? Why do you care about that? And let's say you're one of the people that's curious. It's an interesting question, I guess. Everything's kind of interesting. But let's say you had 5 seconds to talk to Jesus. There's always a crowd around him, and he's walking, and you're kind of like catching up to him, and you have one question to ask, and that's the question that you ask. If you care that much about something that's not your business, there's something wrong. That's at the very least the mark of an uneducated person who cares that much about something that they really have no business knowing. One of the marks of education is knowing when you know something. And one of the marks of being a kind of mature person, I hope I've become a little bit more mature than when I was a baby priest, is saying, I don't know. And I'll tell you guys one thing. Feel free to ask me any question you want. More often than not, I'm going to say, I don't know, and I don't know. And if you ask me how many people are going to get to heaven, I'm going to say, I don't know, and I have no idea. And I'm going to ask you, if you ever find out, let me know. And I'm going to say that sarcastically because you're never going to find out. And please don't ever ask me why God does things. You can ask me, but I'm going to make fun of you. I have no idea why God does things. That's not my business. My business is to preach the gospel. I can tell you this, whatever God does, he does in love. I don't know how his love synchronizes with certain things that happen. But that's not my business to know. And it's not yours either. Will those who are saved be few? Whatever his motivation was. He was curious about this question. He was so curious that that was the one question he asked Jesus with this one opportunity. Fine. Let's see how Jesus answers it. Strive to enter by the narrow door. So he answers a speculative question with a command. So it's like asking, like, what's this number? And Jesus says, go do this. He answers a totally different question. He answers the right question. He answers the thing that is that guy's business and our business. Strive to enter by the narrow door. He's not answering any question about God's inner life and how God judges, because that's not our business. I mean, the first reading, we didn't hear the entire thing, but the first reading ends with this line, the Lord your God is a devouring fire. God's inner life is painful in comparison to us. It's something that is, we would be blinded if we could ever have access to God's inner life. So why God does things, how he judges, devouring fire. Not for us. A second reading that's an option for today also says, woe to those who join house to house, who add field to field. So our business is not God's inner life, but it's also not just getting houses and getting money and getting stuff and having fun later in the reading. It's about entertainment. And it's woe to those who are only living in that way. So it's not God's inner life is not our business, and just material stuff and just having fun is not our business. Not only that. That's part of our life. What is our business? What's the thing that we should be focused on? What's the thing that we should care about? Okay. Strive. You know what strive means? It's a rare, we don't use that word a lot. Strive means try. It means make an effort. That means don't just sit there. Right? Even Jesus, as he's saying this, he's journeying towards Jerusalem. Even Christ, as he's giving this advice, he's striving for something. His end, his sacrifice, his crucifixion, his resurrection. Even Christ is moving in a direction. So if you're just kind of sitting around, you're doing something wrong. You're not minding your business. Well, okay, let's examine ourselves. How do I know if I'm striving or not when it comes to godly things? Look at your excuses. Let's just kind of do this experiment. Everyone kind of do this in their head today. Look at your excuses. If an excuse to not pray, whatever that is, let's say you're really busy, let's say you're in a really bad mood, let's say you had a really bad day, let's say you had a really good day, and you're distracted by that. If that's an excuse, if you would use that excuse to skip work, let's say you're in a bad mood, you're kind of down today, or let's say you're really having a good time, and you would skip work or skip school or something like that, then maybe there's some legitimacy to it. But if you would still go to work, even if you were having that kind of day or in that kind of mood or whatever, but you would use that as an excuse to not pray, the math is very clear here. That means you care more about work than about your prayer life. If the excuse doesn't work for work, and it does work for prayer, that's what your priorities are. That's what you care about. That's what you strive for. That's how we know our own inner life. And that's the irony, because this guy's asking about God's inner life, but he doesn't even know himself. And we are so curious sometimes about all of this stuff that's not our business, and we have no idea who we even are and what we even care about. Strive where? To enter the narrow door. So here, again, the question becomes, so the answer is, okay, try. And then our answer as lazy human beings is, okay, how hard do I have to try? Exactly how hard? What's the minimum amount of effort I can put? Okay, 0 effort's not enough. Is like 10% enough? Well, his answer is, enter the narrow door. Narrow. That means it's harder than you think. How hard are you trying? Okay, try a little harder than that. However hard that is, whatever your answer is. And that's encouraging, actually. Because the person that, I don't know how we would know this, but let's say the person that's trying with 99% of their heart. Again, I have no idea how we could measure something like effort, but let's say you're really trying, even for that person. The answer is, try harder. But, why is it encouraging? Because the person that's not trying at all also has the exact same answer. Okay, harder, more. The door is narrower than you think. If you're doing that, if you have that mentality, you're not going to have much time to ask questions about what percentage of people are getting into heaven. Your mind is going to be a little bit more focused on the stuff that really matters. But there's something else that's kind of built into this. The door to what? We have nice words. Okay, the door to heaven. All right, nice. What does that mean? Strive to enter the narrow door where? Built into this parable, there's already an answer. When once, who opens the door? What is the door to? What is it that we're striving to get into? What is it that we're putting all this effort and trying harder and harder to go to? What is it? What is it? I mean, what's the stuff that you are striving really hard to get into? What, Comic-Con? Okay, I think it's happening right now. What are you striving to get into? The door of a nicer house? That's a big door, that's not a narrow door. Is it, I want to go through the door to this club? Do you want to be part of a club? Be part of like this group of people that gets to feel like they're better than others? Because that's what a lot of people think the church is. The church is this club that allows us to judge other people and say that they're sinners and we're not. But that goes against everything Christ is saying in this passage. The guy's asking how many people will be saved. And Jesus' answer basically implies, you really think you're going to be one of them? With that attitude? No, we're not. It's not striving to be part of this exclusive club where we get to feel like we're better than everybody else. Who is it that opens the door? The householder. What is the door? A door into a family. What are we striving to become a part of? Something bigger than ourselves that allows us to be attached. That allows us to not feel alone and be isolated anymore. That's heaven. Is an attachment to God. Is no longer being an island by ourselves. Striving to be attached. Striving to be a member of God's family. And that's encouraging too. I remember before I was even a baby priest. What would that be? I was like an embryo priest. Okay. I was in the seminary. And I was visiting, I was living in a small parish inside of Detroit in a very, very, very bad neighborhood. St. Rita's. It's closed down, actually. It's not even a parish anymore. And the priest of that church was really challenging a lot of my ideas. He was a very thoughtful kind of guy. And me and this other seminarian and I would talk to him quite a bit. And he would bring up these interesting challenges. He says, look, we're saying for people to call God their Father. Okay, that's nice. And he said, a lot of my parishioners have never met their Father. So what does it mean to them to call God their Father? And I thought that was a really thoughtful, interesting idea. And the response that I have kind of developed over the years is, yeah, this is their chance. This is their chance to understand what it is to have a father. A lot of people maybe never even met their parents. Or a lot of people have had bad experiences with their parents. Okay, now there's your chance for God to be your dad, and for Mother Mary to be your mom, and for Jesus to be your brother. and for the saints to be your siblings. And that connection to that family is what we need to be striving towards. That is our business. Our business is to be making ourselves, as much as we are possibly able, down to the last breath and the last drop of blood, to be members of that household.